Hey guys, welcome back to Vince Custom. So today we're going to continue on with our work in progress series of taking the Sideshow Collectibles Black Canary Premium Format Statue and convert it into a Velma from Scooby Doo. Now in the past couple videos we did the socks, the shoes, the skirt, we thickened up the legs, we added the sweater, magnifying glass. Last video we finished up the hair, and she is pretty much ready to go for paint. Now, before I add any kind of paint onto her, I need to actually fine-tune her, which I'm going to be doing pretty much after I do the base, because we need to work on the base now, because I don't want to work on the base, have any kind of material or residue on my hands, and I'm handling a finished painted item, and I get it all over the item, and I create more work than I need to. So what I want to do is I want to get the base going, I want to get it done, I want to mimic the same base that we did for Daphne in my live streams. If you watch my live streams or even the archives, you can see what we're going for. So in this one, we're going to have a hand coming up like it's coming to grab her ankle, and then we're going to have the Tombstone back there, so it's going to be like a whole theme with both statues put together. Now, I wanted to basically take the hand and these pieces of wood that we had printed out and make resin copies of them. Sadly, the mold stuff that I had recently, it kind of was too old and it didn't really work out. So I did some pricing, and mold and resins have gone up crazy amount with inflation and everything. It's gotten to the point where basically a few years ago, if you bought a trial kit, it was like maybe anywhere from $25 to $35 per shipping. Now, if you get a trial kit of mold or resin for just small stuff like this from Smooth On, you're hitting almost the $60 mark shipped. So it's kind of getting to the point, like, do you really want to buy just a trial kit for something small when you spend another extra $40 or $50 or whatever, and you get a whole kit of a gallon kit? But the problem is, if you buy the gallon kit of mold and stuff, you really need to utilize it, because once you open it up, it's got a shelf life. So we're getting to a point where it's a catch-22 of spending way more money just to make resin copies, where maybe just the future of 3D printing is going to get away from the whole, making resin copies and certain things. So I don't know. I did an experiment with this hand that was printed out for me. I will link this in the description of the one we used. We bought it from an e-trader, I think, site, whatever. It was only like $4 or $7 or something. It had a bottom part to it, so I sliced that off. And what I did as an experiment, I poured in 2-part resin. And the 2-part resin filled in all the holes in here. I poured it in nice and slow. I was kind of worried about maybe there would be a gap or something and all the resin would pour out. But actually it didn't, which was kind of cool. So this hand is actually pretty much more durable now, and I'm actually happy with it. I was going to try to Dremel some holes here, and like I said, I was going to make the mold, but the mold stuff I had just deteriorated and didn't work out. So I figured, what the hell, we're just going to utilize this hand. So I think this is a good experiment of using a 3D printed item, pouring in some resin to make it a little bit more solid, and go from there. Now, when you make a 2-part resin and you pour it in, 2-part resin gets very hot, and I didn't see any warpage or making these fingers bendable with the heat hitting it. So that's actually pretty cool. So this is a good experiment with a 3D item, and it should work out pretty well. I don't think I'm going to have it come this high. I actually might chop this off a little bit more, like it's coming from the ankle, maybe just a little bit over here. So I have to kind of figure out where I'm going to put the hand yet, but for right now, I would just kind of get the idea of where it's going. Now, these two pieces for the Tombstone, I did these up in Illustrator, basically in memory of Ruby Spears, Iowa. I found a little Scooby Doo, silhouette, and I put that up there. And then I found a picture of the creeper. Here lies the creeper and all that. So my friend Ben John has pieces of wood, and he etched them out. Now, like I said, I wanted to make resin copies of these and then attach them together with some A's, but sadly, it's just way too expensive to buy mold and then resin and all this stuff. So we're just going to use the wood. I think it'll just be it's going to last. It's going to be fine. So what I did is I chopped out the back of the wood. I did all these notches and stuff, because flat on flat with resin, with A's, it really isn't going to grab it enough. You really need to make sure something grabs it. So what I'm going to do is roll out some A's. I'm going to roll it out here. I'm going to sandwich these two together. I want to make it just a little bit thicker. I don't want it that thin, just a little bit thicker. We'll see how much A's I roll out. This will bond pretty well. Abe's bonds to wood, metal, plastics, sheetrock, concrete. So Abe's is really good stuff. So what we'll do is we'll get these attached, and then after that, what I'll sit there is I'll go in the garage and I'll kind of chop this up. I'll add scratches. I'll use tools, metal brushes, and just make it look worn out. So this way when I add paint to it, I can actually get in there and make it all look pretty cool. Because right now it would be too smooth and clean. The wood isn't really the end of the world. You can use wood on a lot of your buildups. It's not like this wood is going to be like outside in the elements where rain is soaking into it and it deteriorates over time and gets funky mold. This is going to be all primed up and it's going to be all painted, so it's going to be fine. I just personally, I like to have everything in resin, but this isn't the end of the world. Just got to find, you know, other ways of doing stuff with the cost of going up. Well, it's actually the dollars going down. It takes more dollars to buy stuff, so that's just the way things are working. But with that being said, at least we could get rolling on this base, get this done, and then hopefully we could start working on her paint. So I'm going to go get set up on the desk. I'm going to mix up some A's, roll this out, get this done, so this way by tomorrow I can figure out how to do the rest of this stuff, and then I can kind of plan out how high this hand is going, and then we could just start plugging away, getting all that grass and dirt, and just get the base set up. So it's pretty much the end of the day, and the A's pretty much cured up pretty well, and everything's looking good. So what I've been doing now is I just kind of like scraping the edges, wearing out the corners, adding little cracks and stuff, but I'm not really sure how it's going to look because it's wood. You know, with resin I would have a better understanding of what's going on. So what I'm going to do is, as of right now, I'm going to actually go into the garage and prime this up, just to see where we're going. I'm probably going to have to do a lot of cracking and stuff, maybe within paint as well, than trying to scrape it in. But either way, it'll look good. But once we pretty much get where we want to go with it, we're going to create a little bit of a box so we can create that part on the bottom of here, like a typical gravestone would have, like that bottom piece holding it up. So basically what I'll do is I'll create a little box, spray it with some mold release, put this piece in there, pour in a little bit of resin, let the resin go up, and then go from there and then scrape and break that up and do what I need to do. And this way it'll lock this place, and then also I'll be able to put it in the base, and it should work out pretty well. And it's actually fairly heavy now because the A's really gave some weight to it. But let me get that primed up. We'll come back once I'm pretty much ready to go, and we'll see how it all looks out. So I had a chance yesterday after this was all cured up. I kind of grinded out the sides. I cleaned it up. I used some really rough sandpaper. I think it's like almost 40 grit, 20 grit. I don't know, I forget. It really scraped. So I scraped it all up. I added cracks. I used my X-Acto knife and other tools, and I chopped up edges and just kind of really went with it and just made it all dirty and stuff. I didn't want to go overboard with cracking it up because it is wood, and I want to make sure that you know, everything kind of holds up. But I think this is looking pretty decent. So I think we got the top of the tombstone now, as we need to create the bottom part. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pretty much lay it here. I'm going to cut some board. It doesn't have to go too high, just enough that I could just pour in some resin and create that little box at the bottom. I just got to make sure I don't go above here. Just kind of, you know, probably to like right about here, you know, like right there. Not too much. So I'm just going to create this box, pour in some resin, pop it out, and then we'll have a bottom part. I'll kind of break that up, and then we'll have a nice good tombstone that should work out pretty well. Alright, so you see this is the box I created. The resin is already poured in. I tried to line up as even as I possibly could, so it's just a matter now of popping out. I did spray this down with some mold release, so I'm not really sure. It shouldn't really hit it too much or like bond to the stuff, but you never know. I think I sprayed it down enough where it should work. Doesn't matter that some of it bled over, doesn't matter that some of it bled up, because it's going to get beat up a bit, make it worn. So that's a good thing about doing something like this. You don't have to be perfect. Alright. So I just need to kind of, you know, take this down, clean this up in there. So if I take my X-Acto knife and sort of, while it's still semi-soft, kind of go in here and kind of take some of this out, it should work out pretty well. So I'm going to get this all cleaned up. As you can see, it's just coming out like so. So I'm just going to go and clean this up, break it up a bit, you know, make everything look good, and then pretty much have a tombstone. Alright, so I mixed up some Magic Sculpt, and the other day I had some extra A's, so I put 2 magnets on the bottom of this. So what I want to do is I want to make this removable, but I want to make sure it's kind of like at an angle, not just straight up. So I have 2 magnets over here. We're going to get this set up here. This is really, really old A's. It's at the very bottom of my containers. It's the last of it, so this should actually cure up pretty fast. So it's like 8:30 this morning. I'm going to mix this up, get this done, put this on here. I could move on to have some other stuff, have lunch today, and by the time I come back for lunch, I should be able to work on most of this. Now, the only problem with this one here is I'm creating this magnet system like I've done in the past before. Because what I want to do is I want to make sure that this will stay in with just a rod, but I still want to make sure that there's at least a little bit of a magnet in there. So I got a little bit of extra Magic Sculpt that I'll wrap around here, and I'm going to show you guys how I set up this magnet system to go. So let's just take, I just need them. This is really old and really tough. I mean, this is at the point where it's like literally you can't really do too much with it. I put a ton of water in here and it's still not soft, but it's gonna work good for here. So as you can see over here, I drumbled up and I chopped up a lot of stuff over in here. So we're gonna take a little bit of this Magic Sculpt and we're gonna leave it for the hand. And right now what we'll do is we'll take a little bit of this with some water and we'll kind of just try to shove it into these little areas, because what it is it's not that it's not going to grab, but I'd rather be a little bit safer. So if all this Magic Sculpt is in here and you have magnets on here, you never know over time if you have a flat surface and it's smooth and you put a bunch of Magic Sculpt on there, one day you might lift this up and you might actually pull it off of the base. So you want to make sure your stuff is always grabbing and into stuff. So you can see there's a lot of marks all over the base. I hit some more stuff, so it's just being on the safe side with this. That's all it really is. Keeping my gloves on only because I just want to make sure. Yeah, so that's going to bond up pretty well. So the next step is we take this and just go at an angle like this. Doesn't need to be pretty because we're going to be putting a lot more A's, Magic Sculpt, and freeform air over everything. Now we can take off the gloves, and what we do is we take our 2 magnets like so, pretty strong ones, put them at the bottom, and what we want to do is we want to kind of line up where we're going with this. So like I said, I want to make sure we're there, so I got to push this stuff over a little bit more. So I'm going at an angle, so I'm kind of pushing this upwards. And always be on the safe side. Always want to double check your item. Don't sit there and just think, oh yeah, it's going to be fine. You want to make sure your item is here, your figure, and make sure nothing, because if you have it up like in an angle like this, you're not paying attention. So we're definitely at a good position. So I got plenty of room. So we'll take her off, put her back on the base. Don't want to make sure she doesn't fall. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to take this, let's put some water here, some water here, just kind of line up where we're going. So like that. That's all I really need to do. So boom, we got our 2 marks here for the magnets. A piece of saran wrap. Let's get our tape. So we're going to pull this magnet off and we're going to put it into this slot here. Pull this one off, put this one over here, like so. And then what we're going to do is I want to make sure I lock these into place pretty well. I don't want to glue them in. I like to kind of like really let them bond in there pretty well with the Magic Sculpt. Kind of like lock into place pretty well. Okay. And then what we do is we just take saran wrap. This is too much of a big piece. Just need something smaller. Nothing too crazy. Put that right there, like so. Okay. And then, boom. So that is at a good angle. Just kind of go this way. So it's going to stay with the magnets, and then just to be on the safe side so we don't Saran wrap is good for this because like when you lift it up, it's not going to bond. It's going to keep that thing. You can use baby powder if you want. Doesn't really matter too much. But all I'm going to do is just take this tape, and it's just basically making sure that it doesn't like flop over by accident. Like say if I go out to lunch or I go work on some other things and I come back and it cures and it's flopped over, I gotta chop all that stuff up. But this is at a good position now. It's a little bit of angle, and it is backwards, and it should work out for what I'm going for. So I'm just going to let this cure up for a few hours, and by the time I come back, I could probably start working on all this base and everything. At least I could probably do a lot of the grass, you know, here and here, do a lot of this stuff. And then over here is going to be a little bit of a dirt mound and stuff, like, you know, he's underneath, the creeper's underneath coming up and everything. So we just got to take this and now wrap this around here, like so. Let this curve, and this you really need to cure up, because if you're not paying attention and you try to put this in and it's kind of not really cured up, and you try to pull out the magnet with this thing, you might just rip it all apart. But maybe this magic scope will kind of cure up. So that's kind of the magnet system. So what'll happen is once this is ready to go, I could put the hand in here with some of that stuff and start setting this up over there. So this might have to be done at the very end. Once I get everything else done, but at least I can get this going. So just going to move this aside, and hopefully in a few hours to come back and start plugging away. So I am ready to start working on Velma's base. So if you pop into my live streams or you see any of my archive live streams with Daphne's base, this is Daphne's base here. You can see we have Scooby Doo tracks. This is kind of like a dirt road type look. We have a keep out sign over here. And then we have all the grass and the dirt here. So basically, I'm going to continue the grass over the here, and we're going to put some of the grass over here. Now I'm going to put a little bit longer grass in the back, probably by the Tombstone area. You can see I have different lengths of these grass. It's a matter of mixing up my Abe's epoxy sculpt, mixing in with some dirt colors too, some paints. It doesn't really matter. This stuff is fine. I haven't had any issues with nothing bonding. It just kind of helps keep the colors going instead of just red putting down. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just do all this area here with all the grass and all the area over here with the grass. And then if I have more time today and maybe I take a break by the time I'm done and then come back, I'm going to mix up freeform air. Freeform air is basically like Abe's Imagiscope, but it's a little bit more tricky from smooth on. But I like it for doing stuff like this. So this is all going to be dirt. Over here, this is a rocky road. This is kind of muddy dirt for holding the grass, but this is going to be like broken up dirt, you know, with the hand coming out and everything. And then I could do the Scooby tracks too as well. I made up my Scooby stamps and stuff, so it looked like, you know, Scooby kind of stamping around and walking around the area. So yeah, I just got to do it in sections. I got to plan it out. It's very tedious work. I'm just going to, you know, kick on some music, just sit here and plug in and put all this grass sorted like I do here with the live stream stuff. And that is pretty much it for now. So it's going to be grass, dirt, tombstone with some moss on it. I do have some stuff where I'm going to see if I can glue some moss on the tombstone once I paint it up. We'll see how all that kind of plays out. The last thing I'm going to do is, whatever happens today, I'm going to leave this as a decent opening. And then maybe by tonight I can set this up where I can get this magnet locked in. And then I could come back, and when it's removable, I could work out a little bit dirt, like the dirt's kind of breaking away and the hand came out of it and stuff like that. So it's a little bit tedious and tricky, but we'll see how things go. So let me get all mixed up. I'm just going to do a fast part of this video because it's just a matter of throwing A's down, locking in grass, A's down, locking in grass, and just keep going. Alright, so we got a lot of the grass on, and what I did was, since the wind is kind of blowing this way, you kind of just push the grass like that, so he kind of gives a little bit of that wave. So that works out pretty well. So we'll grab the other base here, and when you connect it, once I get in there and I airbrush and I connect it, it'll look like the two bases sort of match up pretty well. So this way, when they're next to each other, we have, you know, everything kind of works together. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to mix up from some of my freeform air, and I'm going to build up to about here. I'm going to build up around here. I'm going to leave a big hole opening over here, and I'm going to fill it in, and I'm going to use some baby powder probably, maybe some paint, I'm not really sure. Probably some sand. I have some Jersey sand and stuff, so I'll throw some sand in there. I got to try to make sure I don't fill any of this in, but it's going to be warped and it's going to be messy and stuff, just like it's a freshly, you know, park grave. I'm leaving all this alone over here because I might have to go in there with Aves to sort of kind of clean up this and fix this up. You know, just kind of make it, because, you know, I want the stuff to be sort of like kind of rounded a bit, but at least this way where she's stepping in with her foot, she looks like she's stepping in with some of the dirt and is pushing away. So I have to kind of play with it and stuff, but so once all that's done, I could come back after all this kind of cures up. I could put the arm, figure out which way I want to put this hand and stuff in, and sort of really clean up over in there. So it's going to be a little bit tricky, but at least if I could get the majority of this set up now, I'll be in good shape to kind of do some final touches. And then after that, I get in there with the airbrush, clean up, paint, do some washes. I also want to put Scooby feet over here. I tried to put it over here, but it's not really working with the grass too well. But if I could have at least just maybe 1, 2, 3 of Scooby feet like it ran across here as well, it'll kind of like at least play with the base a little bit and just go from there. So we're definitely going to have to come back and finish it up in one more step after this. Plus I still got to paint up the arm, and we got to paint up the tombstone as well. So it's been about 2 days. This piece is all done when I went in the garage and I used a brush and I had a vacuum cleaner and I brushed it out. So I tried to get as much loose sand out as I possibly could. I like that we're kind of like really messy and dirty, which is looking good. So if he's, you know, underneath and his hand is coming up in this direction, so it's kind of like he's coming up to grab her ankle. So what I did is, this piece was all cured up and everything, so I was working on some other projects, so I had a little extra magic sculpt, so I shoved it in there, and pretty much this kind of just connects right in. So we got the magnet and it got a nice clicking noise. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to mix up some extra Aves. I'm going to put it around here. I'm going to kind of get this part even, like, you know, get the dirt like it's breaking apart, but still make it so it looks like it's, you know, going in there. I also was outside in the garage working on some stuff, so I just painted this up with some black paint just to kind of get that going. So this kind of connects on there pretty well. Now I can do one of two things. I can leave this as is and just kind of create some A's around here and kind of blend this off and leave the tombstone as is, or I can make it look perfect, but also I can leave it and it can connect on the other way, so you can actually swap it, which is kind of cool. So the way I set up the magnets, we're all going in the same direction. So I think what I'll do is I'll see if I can set it up where, you know, you can put it any way you want. If you want to have it the creeper showing, you can show the creeper. If you want the names and the memory of the people, you can do that. So I think that's going to work out pretty well. So I just need to do Aves over here with some baby powder and kind of, you know, blend this out a little bit. I might have to I thought about adding some grass and stuff, but I don't think I'm going to do that. I think the grass is fine where it is and just add some dirt over here. I also got that mossy stuff, so I got to see where I can actually put the mossy stuff once I start painting. But all in all, I'm really happy with it. I like it. You know, we got the Scooby Doo feet in there. I kind of blended that out. This is all going to be painted like a brownish dirt, like fresh dirt. I wanted to make it look fresher than the brown dirt over here, so we get a different variation and stuff. And I just got to make sure I don't do, it's kind of more brownish and dark brownish a little bit than orangey dirt, because I don't want it to, you know, mess up with her clothes and stuff. So we got to kind of blend that out. But for right now, I just kind of want to seam up the hand and seam up this. And then after that, we could start doing some touch-ups here and there, and I think we could start getting onto the paintwork. Okay, so I'm going to start painting up some of the elements on the base now. I pretty much got it all sanded up. I'm priming up some of the items. I'm just getting everything ready to go. So I'm going to start just working on what I can. So I'm going to do the Tombstone now. This is a bottle of paint that whenever I have airbrush paint and I got a couple drops left in there, or if it's a color I mixed up, and it's not something I really want to save in a special bottle, it's just something I kind of was blending, I throw it in this bottle. So this is kind of my, you know, extra paint bottle type thing that I've been using for years now. And it's basically got like a pearlized grayish, like cool little color. You know, I'll throw in blues, greens, yellows, whites, whatever kind of colors I have in my bottle, just so I don't waste paint. And it kind of gives me this really cool color system. So I'll be using this with some whites. I'm going to do a lot of dry brushing, some washes on this, and just kind of really bring this together. You can see some of the original red oxide is sort of in there. I'm going to leave that alone and just kind of like, just play with it and get it going. And then I'm going to try to start working on the base. I'm going to just pretty much dirty up the dirt and everything and get that going. The hand is actually in the garage right now. I just primed them up. It's kind of a muggy day, so it's not really going to cure up for a while. So at least I can get everything else going and get that done. And then from there, once we sort of get all these elements pretty much finished up, I could see about putting some of that moss around the base or even on the tombstone. We'll see how that kind of works out. But for right now, let's just kind of get this going. It's pretty much dry brushing. There's really nothing more to it. There's no crazy techniques. Just going to use my fan brush, dry brushing this on, just keep going until I get it really like a grayish, marble-ish, not marble, but just like a grayish type of rock type thing. And that's pretty much it. I am putting the final touches on all this. I'm going through everything. I touched up a lot of paint in there. There is some red showing, but I kind of like the idea of some of the red showing in there. It kind of makes it pop a little bit more. The hand is pretty much all done. I really like the way this hand came out. It's very monstrous. It was just a matter of putting a lot of washes and just sponge work and all kinds of stuff, and to get this really kind of dirty looking zombie type hand. It goes in pretty well. It clicks in nice, and that's in there pretty well. The Tombstone works out great, both sides, so you can kind of do whatever you want. Now, I was going to add some of this moss stuff. This is that piece of moss that I had, and I thought this stuff was actually like really like rubberized sort of together, and you would have to use an X-Acto knife to sort of cut it off, but sadly, messing with this stuff, it actually tears apart way too easy. So if you see it, you know, this little piece here, I could just rip this apart. See how it just tears like that? I don't like that. I don't like putting anything like that onto an item for long-term purposes. I know people who build dioramas and they do all that monster stuff, they don't mind putting that stuff on, but I personally don't like it because my theory, you know, like say I dab some glue and I put this on there, say over time people move it or clean or something happens, this stuff might deteriorate and come off that glue, and then you got a weird glob of glue there. Plus, now that I'm looking at it, it's really too bright green to go with the rest of the item. So I have a funny feeling if I added all this moss onto there, it would be too bright with all this darker, you know, stuff there. And I really want to focus on Velma more. I don't want to add too much to the base where you're like looking at the base. I think I got the point across. We have a Tombstone, we have the zombie hand coming out, we got the grass and the dirt, and I think we're looking good. So I think that's where I'm going to end it there. You know, sometimes things would work and sometimes things don't, but I'm not really a fan of this moss stuff. So I'm going to go over it one more time. I'm going to finish up anything there. Usually I put that PV, I forget what that kind of rubber pad stuff you get at, like, you know, Hobby Lobbies and stuff, and you can stick it at the bottom. Sadly, I don't have any more pieces big enough for this, so I have to go out and get one, but I could do that down the line. But at least we could finish this off with this video, and then hopefully we could start painting up Velma in the next one. Okay, so the base is all finished up. All I really need to do now is get some of that Eva pad and place it underneath of that so it doesn't scrape anything and everything. So right now I just got a piece of foam here. But other than that, everything is done. For Scooby's feet here, I'm not going to put the clear resin on that to make it look dirty. I think it looks fine the way it is. I like the idea that this is kind of like a basically a drier dirt than actually wet or rainy or anything like that. I like the idea that Daphne's is sort of like the street and stuff, got sort of the wet stuff on here, but over here it's just kind of dry stuff, and this works out pretty well coming up from there. The cool thing about the way this you know, Tombstone worked out is you can swap it, so you can put it this way and have the creeper showing if you want, or you can have the creators sort of like that. So this is a way when you look at our booty on this direction, you can have it swapped out over there, and that works out pretty well. So it is pretty much ready to go. I'm happy with where everything is. I don't think I really need to do anything else. If I do decide to add any of this wet stuff on the feet, which I might do, I'm not really sure yet. It's just that we've been having really cloudy days and it's been raining, and I didn't really want to get out there and mess with it. So really the next sunny day I'll make a better decision if I want to put that stuff on there. So when we come back with the final video, it might be there, it might not be there. It depends on how the whole display and everything is going. But other than that, she's ready to go. So what's going to happen next video is I'm going to have her all pretty much fine-tuned up, which means ready for paint. I'm going to set up everything in the you know, studio and do a whole video on just paint up. I think one video should work. I really don't think I need to do like a video series because it's fairly straightforward of skin, orange outfit, and like orangey dark hair and everything like that, and we're done. So once the paint video is done, then after that we'll do final videos on Velma and Daphne, and in each video we'll have them side by side. I'll get pictures up on Instagram and everything else, and then we'll pretty much be finishing this off, and then we'll start planning on the next video series after this character is all done. So thanks for watching, and we'll be back with the final paint video fairly soon.